Today we're in Hallettsville, Texas at the Old Lavaca County Jail. Now this is the second oldest continuously operating jail in the entire state of Texas. There are said to be many accounts of paranormal activity, but we're going to find out for ourselves today with our friends from Corpus Christi Spook Central. Do you believe?
Are you in here for murder? I heard a whisper that said murder.
Old Lavaca County Jail was built in 1885, and it is the second longest running jail in the state of Texas. It closed in 2005. So as you can imagine, there's lots of things that have happened here. The jail had hangings, it had murders, it had suicides, and of course it had males and females. This part of the jail that we're in right now was actually built 100 years after the original jail. So yeah, and it's in Hallettsville, Texas, so they had people who would come in here and, you know, they may not even been recorded that they were actually in the jail. So they're still telling what history is here that we're not even aware of. The jail, like I said, it's been the second longest running jail in the state of Texas. When they started running out of room, they decided to build another jail. But if you think about it, from 1885 to 2005, this was the jail that everybody came to in Lavaca County. And there's really not a whole lot of cells. I mean, right now we're sitting in the day room, and next to me is one cell. On the other side, on the male side, there's another day room and one more cell. Upstairs, there's maybe 6 cells. So imagine how many people had to be squeezed into that through now and back in the day. The old jail is it's built out of steel and concrete. So can you imagine the coldness of that when it's cold outside, or the heat of that when it's hot outside? Being here last night, just in the humidity, the floors were slick. In the gallows, which is actually now an apartment for the caretakers, there were, I believe, 25 hangings that are documented, right? So we're talking about a Wild West type town. So if there's 25 that are documented, can you imagine those that are not documented? There was also a center of town where there was a tree that they did hangings from. And there's a lot of things that happened in this town that people just didn't know about. I mean, you had a sheriff who worked alone a lot of the time. So imagine he's bringing somebody in knowing he has no more jail cells to put people, right? He's working alone. There's a ravine behind the jail. Shot to the head. Nobody knows that anybody's gone anyways. So there's certain stories that are attached to this jail that we're not allowed to talk about, out of respect for certain families, which we're okay with that. What's kind of unique about this jail is that the active sheriffs and their families lived in the jail. So not only was your father, who was the sheriff, working this jail was also your home. So your home was attached to the jail. So you're running around downstairs while there's murderers and thieves and stuff upstairs doing their prison time, right? So who's to say that the kids didn't get a little curious and go, let me go check this out? I would have as a kid. So that, and you actually had a sheriff who had 2 children who passed away. He had a child who passed, a 9-month-old daughter, I believe it was, that passed away in the jail. He had a son named Horace who actually got ran over by a horse. So you've got energy from children to older people to sheriffs that are probably still walking around doing their jobs. Then you had a sheriff who was transporting somebody who got killed, so his wife took over briefly as sheriff. You don't see that happen very often. So, I mean, there's a lot of history that's tied here for things that we do know, but I can just imagine what we don't know.
Do you know that you're dead?
I know I was just in here and we saw somebody. What was your name?
What I have learned about this jail through research was that there has been numerous suicides numerous murders that has occurred up here in this area. The side that I'm on right now is the female side, and from what I've read, that there's a female that had actually hung herself over here. And then across away from us is the male side, and there's been numerous murders and suicides that has taken place over there. The jail cells itself up here was manufactured in 1874 and was actually placed in here in 1885. They didn't have anything downstairs at the time as far as cells go. So when they were given an opportunity to get up and exercise, which they're only given 30 minutes a day, they had just a small area they could walk around the outside of their cells. They couldn't go outside. The windows were painted. They couldn't even look outside, nothing. It's very small. I mean, you've got like a day room where there's a table where they could actually come out and sit down and eat their meal, but the cell itself is very small. A lot of the records was actually destroyed during the floods, the early floods. So there's no record of that. From my understanding, Hallettsville was like a really Wild West type of town. So there was numerous shootings that was on the square. There was a lot that would go on, a lot of things that wasn't even reported. And some of the inmates that were placed over here, I mean, they were murderers. Most of them, from what I read, was murderers. So yeah, it was pretty a wild town at one time.
So this jail itself is actually kind of, I guess, lucky to still be standing. And this has survived technically 3 floods in a way, but 2 major floods. The first one was in 1948. It had 8 feet of water inside of it. And so could you imagine people being in their jail cells either upstairs, right? You have 8 feet of water rushing into a building, so they are taking people out to the roof and getting them out of here, pushing them through the water to get them out of here. And so that happened, and the water went away, and so they fixed what they could, and then here comes the Great Flood of 1981. The flood of 1981 actually washed away the first original house, and so that was where the sheriff's families lived. So in order to kind of bring back some of that history, they built out a metal house, basically, right? So that you can still have the offices and a house to like cook and do that kind of things when groups came in. And again, in 1981, there was 8 feet of water in the jail. I mean, so at that time, you have people not only upstairs, you have people downstairs too. So you think of 8 feet of water, if you're 5 foot tall or 6 foot tall, I mean, these jail cells alone aren't but maybe 6 foot tall, right? So can you imagine being in here going, okay, well, it's raining really hard outside. What's going to happen? And the water starts coming in on top of you. Okay, so this building went through that flood. Well, then comes Hurricane Harvey, and that puts probably 8 to 12 feet of water in the jail cells as well. So it's not only survived for over 100 years, it's survived 3 major floods. And so that's another reason that they're trying to restore it back to what it was, because it's a great piece of history to be able to stand that kind of water. Right now, there's a gentleman with Rita Inc. that owns this jail. He actually likes to go around and purchase old buildings for the history factor, right? He wants nothing to do with the paranormal factor. So he purchased them, and he likes to take them back to what they were back in the day. But he doesn't want to register them with the Historical Society, because if you do that, they tie your hands, and there's certain things you can't do to make them what they were back then. So he purchased this jail back in 1995, I think. And so from there, he was kind of trying to do the restoration himself, do that type of thing. And a paranormal group called him and was like, hey, can we come investigate your jail? He allowed them to come in, and they started getting evidence of things happening. And so from that, the head person with that group called him and said, you know what you could do to raise some money to help you do what you want to do is, why don't you allow paranormal groups to come in and investigate the jail? Groups will pay a small fee to come in and investigate, and that can go back towards your restoration.
Because we know that there was a female that killed herself.
You all right?
I felt like something was choking me.
All right, so you're going to be over here.
I'm on the other side.
Okay. So you come through, go to that side.
Upstairs, Old Lavaca County Jail, 9:15 p.m.
Go ahead, you're good.
You good? All right. I think this was the last one. I sit on the floor. I heard that you had killed yourself in here. Can you tell me why? Do you even realize that you're no longer alive? That you're dead?
All right, stand right there. All right, just stand there. Wow. See if you can try to get it to hold your hand.
Can you hold my hand? Take my hand?
I know this is probably weird for you, but we just want to talk to you and have a conversation. We mean you no harm. We're not here to scare you.
You all right?
If I'm out, if you need to.
Yeah, if you need to come out, come out.
No, all right.
No, come on. Come on, out. Go on.
Yeah.
All right, so explain what happened.
I'm just sitting in there. I feel fine. And then all of a sudden I felt like I was being choked. And I could feel it in my chest. And I could feel it around my throat. And it was like I was having trouble breathing. And when I came out, I could still feel it. And so I've never had that happen before. That's the first, I've never had that happen before. I felt like I needed to get out of there. It didn't want me there.
And what happened on that side of the jail cell? Is there any historical significance or any incidences that
The cell
happened?
that I was in, there was a suicide. And I asked the question, do you know that you're dead? And how did you die? And that's when it started. It was like, I felt like they must have hung themselves because that's what I felt.
It was one of those moments I was like, I can't wait to get back up here because I can't wait to show you this. She had no clue that I had a GoPro on her and I was videotaping this. This is 100% raw. She actually isn't kind of happy that I did it, but it told her, said, this is just as much as evidence.
Yes, it
is
is.
capturing EVP, orb, or apparition. This shows that moment of being raw and real. You'd had an experience close to that up there, if you wouldn't mind sharing.
It was during the day. A friend of mine came by to just check out the jail, and I was giving her a tour. And we went upstairs, and I was just talking about the different prisoners up there, about the 100-year span between the downstairs and the upstairs, and some of the things that happened upstairs. And I mean, just out of the blue, all of a sudden, it felt like, not on the outside of my neck, but like on the inside where someone was just squeezing. And I'm trying to catch my breath, and I'm kind of looking at my friend, and she's not an investigator, so she's just kind of looking at me weird, and I'm like, and then my eyes started watering. I mean, this lasted for a good 30, 45 seconds. Where it just, I could not breathe. I could not catch my breath. I couldn't talk. Somebody was not happy with me up there, and I don't know why, because I've been here for 4 years. But just that day, whatever happened to be going through there just wasn't happy with me, and it was, honestly, it was really scary. So I kind of looked at her, and I'm like, let's go. And as soon as I got downstairs, everything was fine. Almost someone choke her.
first off, I really want to thank you for allowing us to come in and investigate this wonderful historical jail. It was really a great experience, and I mean, it's definitely interesting just to sit up there and you listen to it. And you can hear footsteps, and we got that even on camera, the voices and stuff like that, shadows. So it's really
It's an active location.
it is definitely an active location. We're going to go ahead and go over some of the EVPs first. These EVPs were captured more in the outside jail area.
Okay, the downstairs.
Yeah, the downstairs area. Yes. This one is actually, I believe you can hear Shauna talking, and she's trying to make communication, and you hear the name Cody. Or it's maybe Cody.
So Cody, are you in here?
It's right there.
I know it takes a
It's
lot of
little
energy
soft.
for you guys to communicate, but
Yeah.
So it's a real light, yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole reason I used the word Cody was because I was watching a video or something you guys had done.
Yes.
And I heard about a young man who was actually at a bar and got in a bar fight and hit on the head with like a bottle or something, and then he was actually brought to the jail, I guess, for like public intoxication or something. I don't know what it was called back then. Or when it happened, but he actually didn't die in the jail for things happening in the jail. Basically, he passed out, and I guess nobody came upon him or found him.
Right.
And that's how he actually died in the jail.
He is a very regular in here at the jail. So yeah, that's really awesome.
Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and move to the upstairs jail area. And of course, when we talked a little bit about, you know, the stronger entity that is upstairs that even you've had experiences with.
Oh, yeah.
This one said, did you get her?
No, that's a deeper male voice.
And so she was actually already in the jail cell, I believe, where the female had hung herself. And so when she started coughing, and it was like, okay, he had already been seeing shadows, and we thought we were hearing things. And so when that came across, I was like, whoa. Like, are they having conversations? And they're like, oh, did you get her?
This was taken at the moment she was choking as she walked out. We did not, I barely could hear it on the GoPro, but we captured it better on audio. She's someone stronger. Yeah, I forgot. That was
Or almost someone choker. To me, it sounds like someone choker, but
it
could be, but similar, and she's stronger. Oh wow! And that is a deep male voice.
It is. That's why I say I think that there is a very dominant male.
There absolutely is.
Spirit upstairs.
There absolutely is. We've had several people capture him, and you can see his ears to a T. I saw him physically. It's a big dark shadow.
So this was actually, we had set up a digital video camera in front of the sheriff's office because there had always been, you know, I've heard where people say they've heard voices and stuff like that. So it's one of the areas we concentrated on. And that was the one that sounded like a child's voice. And then shortly after, you'll hear me walking.
That's a girl.
Yeah.
That's a little girl. Absolutely.
She's upstairs. There's no one downstairs, just me. That's it. And when I heard it, I was like, man, why was I walking? If I hadn't been walking, I would have heard it clear. But it's a child's voice. Of course, with the investigation, you get the orb. It's just a real slow movie, yeah.
Oh,
And
no, but that's really good, though.
Yeah, well, the only reason why we kind of looked at this one was just for the simple fact if it had been dust, it would have been moving faster. The windows
if it
are
was
open.
a bug, you would have seen it.
Here we're using an ultraviolet camera, and some people believe, you know, mist or ectoplasm or some type of ribbon energy. And if you look in this area right through here, yeah.
And that comes out of the closet that you and Deb.
To get voices in. Yeah.
And
Oh, wow.
if you watch, you'll see something come through here, and then this comes out of the closet. And here's another one where this camera was actually on the female side, facing towards the door leading out, and actually get a get out from a female. really soft to hear. It's right in the beginning.
I heard it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's real soft. And of course, another get out.
To me walking.
It's to me, it sounds like there's two people saying "get out." There's one about right here, and then you hear it here. It's on the TV. You can't hear it as well, but the second voice, it really has like a demonic kind of tone to it.
To me walking.
But they really wanted y'all to get out.
After countless hours of searching for paranormal activity here at Old Lavaca County Jail, the question still remains as to whether or not there are truly spirits lingering in this building. We want to thank our friends from Corpus Christi Spook Central for guiding us through this paranormal tour, and we've got to ask you at home, is this place really haunted? You'll have to come find out for yourself. I'm Clarissa Cerna. Join us again next time on South Texas Haunts.